Good evening. Welcome to the May 11th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. We do have some public seating, as some of you are aware. Please be mindful of the overall person limits as well as individual spacing, and please do keep your masks on through the course of the evening. As always, we're going to begin this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit. Here. Commissioner Colavani,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Glover.
Here. We are all in attendance. Awesome. As has been our practice for a little while now, actually since the beginning of COVID when we've met, we have taken the public comments section of our meeting and moved it to the end of the agenda. We're doing that in an effort to allow online comments to come in through the course of the meeting and in response to what's going on up here. So we'll announce that portion of the meeting when we get to it. I have a couple of proclamations this evening. The first is Historic Preservation Month. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing and sustaining neighborhoods, fostering local pride and maintaining a sense of place, while enhancing livability, and whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a community. And whereas Tell the Full American Story is the theme for Historic Preservation Month 2021. Whereas Tell the Full American Story is a national campaign that encourages people to engage in the wide variety of ways to discover and save the places that showcase the depth and diversity of our nation's history. Whereas Historic Preservation Month 2021 is an occasion for celebrating the historic resources within the community, increasing public awareness of the importance of historic preservation so that special resources can be preserved to pass on to future generations. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim May 21, 2021 as Historic Preservation Month in the Village of Downers Grove, dated this 11th day of May 2021 in Downers Grove, Illinois. Liz Chalberg is here. She's got a couple of comments she'd like to give us all, and I'm going to hand this off to her for a moment.
Hi, Liz Chalberg, 1132 Curtis, also the president of the Downers Grove Historical Society. I would like to thank the Commission for continuing to celebrate history in Downers Grove and to continue bringing history into the forefront for the public so that they can celebrate it. Like many other organizations, we've had to postpone some of our regular events, and we are now looking forward to placing a few on the calendar for the remainder of 2021. We will soon be announcing the recipient of the Montu Dunham Award, and I will do that here also. And later, we will announce the recipient of the Historian of the Year. These recognition events have been slated for the fall of this year with the hopes that some of the restrictions for gatherings will increase beyond 50 people. And because each one of these people, that when you know their names, you will realize that they could probably fill a stadium just on their own. So we are really hoping to have an increased public attendance on those. We will also be planning to conduct our regular living cemetery with the normal plan that we almost always do. And with any hope, with the relaxed restrictions that we're planning on, hoping for, we will have our second annual, except for last year, History on Tap. So that was a great event. We had great turnout, and we would like to repeat that. So celebrating our history and honoring those who helped make it is what we love to do. And we want to thank you for your part in making history important in Downers Grove. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz. It is also Police Week. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. And whereas the members of the Downers Grove Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of residents, businesses, and guests in Downers Grove. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the challenges, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of the Downers Grove Police Department recognize their duty to serve by safeguarding life, liberty, and property, by protecting against violence or disorder, protecting the innocent against deception, and the weak against oppression. Whereas the Downers Grove Police Department unceasingly provides a vital public service which every member of our community counts on daily. Whereas the Downers Grove Police Department has been and remains a recognized leader in modern, efficient, effective, and empathetic policing. Now therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, call upon all citizens of Downers Grove and upon all patriotic civil and educational organizations to observe the week of May 9th through 15th as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies in which all our people may join in commemorating police officers past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens, dated this 11th day of May 2021, Downers Grove, Illinois. I believe Chief Gillette has a couple of words he'd like to say.
Good evening, Mayor Barnett, members of the Village Council, Manager Fieldman. On behalf of the Downers Grove Police Department, I would like to thank you for recognizing our team and for recognizing the law enforcement profession with the Village Proclamation for Police Week. Throughout Police Week, we reflect on the nearly 25,000 law enforcement officers who have died in the line of duty while serving their communities. This includes 121 officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice this year alone, including 3 police officers from the state of Illinois. Here in the village of Downers Grove, we honor the memory of Officer Richard J. Barth, who was killed in the line of duty on March 18th of 1974 while investigating a call of suspicious youths in Hooper's Hollow Park. Richard was 25 years old. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he served honorably in the United States Air Force. So we are forever grateful to Officer Barth and to his family for his sacrifice and service to the village of Downers Grove. I would like to extend our gratitude to the Downers Grove community for your support and for the many cards, notes, and expressions of appreciation that we have received. The members of our department are committed to serve and protect in a manner that is respectful for all and reflective of the highest professional standards. I would like to recognize and thank the hardworking and dedicated employees of the Downers Grove Police Department. I am proud to serve alongside a group of officers and civilian teammates who carry out their duty with competence, with compassion, and with integrity. I see in each of them the very best of what our badge symbolizes. I see in them a commitment to continual improvement to ensure that our police department remains a source of pride for the village. And we as a department are grateful for the support of the Village Council. We will strive to maintain your confidence, and we will strive to maintain the trust of the Downers Grove community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Item 4 on our agenda tonight are minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the May 4th, 2021 minutes as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to item 5, our consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning tonight's consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Comments or questions from the council? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Item 6 on our agenda tonight is our active agenda. This is the portion of the meeting where we would be taking formal action on items typically discussed previously, sometimes once, sometimes multiple times. We do not have any active agenda items tonight. Will take us to our first reading. First reading portion of the meeting is where we either continue discussion or begin discussion on items that we plan to take an action on at a future meeting. We will not be taking action on tonight's first reading items. With that, I'll hand it over to Manager Fieldman.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. There are 4 items on tonight's first reading agenda. The first is consideration of an ordinance authorizing a special use for a new business at 2300 Wisconsin Avenue. Here to provide the background information on this item is our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich.
Good evening, members, Mayor and council members. Thank you, Manager Fieldman. As he noted, it's a special use for 2300 Wisconsin Avenue, Units 201 to 203. You recall 2300 Wisconsin is in the Ellsworth Industrial Park, just west of Belmont Road. The units in question are in the second building, the middle building here, on the southwest corner. The proposal is for a personal vehicle repair and maintenance facility at this location. It's a high-end automotive repair and detailing shop focusing on both domestic and foreign vehicles. The layout here you can see includes a small office and restroom with a larger work area for the vehicle servicing. All activities will be completely within the building, and there's no proposed exterior modifications. The comprehensive plan notes that we should attract contemporary users to this area and minimize negative impacts on the residential neighborhoods. The Plan Commission found at their April 5th meeting that the standards for special use were met and recommended approval. The proprietors of the business are here as well if you have any specific questions for them, or if there's anything that I can answer for you tonight, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Stan. Questions from the council on this at all? Anyone? Craig, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank staff for their work in bringing this forward. Thank the business owners for coming to Downers Grove. I think the standards are met, and I look forward to supporting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Stan, we had another similar use not that long ago in Ellsworth, right?
Yes, these 3 buildings are becoming a sort of an automotive high-end detailing and repair place and location for these businesses. So we're very excited to have another business like that in town.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Any comments or questions from anyone in the audience on this subject? Okay, seeing none, we'll continue on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The next 3 items consider investments in our water system and our stormwater management system. Here to present information on these items is our Public Works Director, Andy Sikich.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got 3 projects to present to you tonight. I'll run through a few quick slides and some information on the projects, and then open it up to question on all 3 if that works for you guys. The first project is Water Main Contract A. We have 2 water main contracts. We typically split it up just to make the work a little more manageable for the contractor and for staff. Water Main Contract A consists of 4,400 feet of water main and residential services up to the shutoff valves, along with resurfacing of these streets. The streets are Lincoln Avenue from Fairview to Cumner, Parkview Drive from Claremont to Fairmount, and Valley View Drive from Meadowcrest to Fairmount. 7 bids were received. The lowest responsive bidder was J. Congdon Sewer Service with a bid of $2,150,498.34. J. Congdon has successfully completed projects for the village in the past. Contract B, as you can see here, is all in one general location. The project consists of about 4,300 feet of water main, again with residential services up to the valves and resurfacing of the streets. This project includes Leonard Avenue from 59th to 63rd and 61st Street from Janes to Belmont. 8 bids were received, with the lowest responsive bidder being Girardi Sewer and Water with a bid of $1,303,831.50. Girardi has not worked for the village in recent years, but they have successfully completed projects for the villages of Oak Brook and Elk Grove Village, among others. So they are also recommended. And last but not least, the Highland and 41st Street Storm Sewer. This is a storm sewer replacement project where we'll be replacing about 3,000 feet of deteriorated clay storm sewer that's reached the end of its useful life, along with, again, resurfacing the streets. It's Highland Avenue from south of 39th to just north of Ogden, and 41st Street from Main to just east of Highland. 7 bids were received, and the lowest responsive bidder is Austin Tyler Construction with a bid of $965,555. Austin Tyler has successfully completed several projects actually for the village in the past. They are also recommended. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Any council questions? Rich, please.
Yeah, I have one question. With the sewer project, are we increasing capacity at all or just replacing it with the same size pipe?
We're just replacing it with the same size pipe. Typically, in order to increase capacity, you would have to add storage somewhere to offset the additional flow, and we didn't have any immediate need in this area to do that, so we're just replacing what's there.
Thanks.
Okay, any questions from the audience on these three projects? Seeing none? Thank you.
All right, you bet.
And that
Thanks.
is our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Only one item tonight, and that is an ordinance authorizing a special use for 2300 Wisconsin Avenue, units 2001 and 203, to operate a personal vehicle sales business. That is all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Enzo. Item 9 on our agenda. This is where we have put the public comments section of the meeting. Anyone that has comments they'd like to bring to our attention that are not focused on an agenda item tonight, please come on down to the podium, tell us your name and what's on your mind.
Hi, once again. Had a very interesting 60 days involving Downers Grove. You guys, the city, the village has been majorly inspirational. I traveled probably from all the way down from Springfield and all the way out to Peru with some of these makeshift inserts I'm doing with the Irish American newspaper. Since then, I picked up another probably 12 papers in Illinois. But one thing I recently found is the people that run the Heritage Court. The lady that runs it, she was raised in Downers Grove, and she was like so proud. And she hasn't been in Downers Grove in 20, 30 years. And she says she was so proud. Like, my mom was born in Downers Grove, I was raised in Downers Grove, and now she's out by Peru. And she said it's a wonderful thing that, you know, somewhere she was raised would be recognized. And the separation between what you people have here and how excited people were saying when I was doing my traveling and putting together my contacts with the other newspaper groups. God, the feedback was great. We are officially producing the papers now. We'll be in the June issue of the St. Patrick's, excuse me, it's been a long day, of the Irish American News. We're going to press with my paper, Celebrating News. Our first release is going to be 20,000 papers sometimes in June. We would love to talk to your historical people to find out more history in Downers Grove, because I feel I'm going to be having a long relationship with you people. It's great. It's great. The response I got from outside of Downers Grove on Downers Grove is great. We are going to be having, because of the COVID and the difficulties, we ran into some problems trying to get a couple of businesses involved. We finally got a response from a couple of different restaurants. They're going to be offering a percentage of their tabs to go to charities. The charity I started, Dive Hard, the church, and whoever else needs some help. And they'll be in the June issue, the Irish American newspaper. They'll also be in my issue, Celebrating News. And I once again just thank you people. I've got a stack of papers that I'll leave somewhere around here. I've given your individual some papers for you. There's contact numbers in there. There's emails. If anybody at all would like to, or has any direction, or any, like, once again, any not-for-profits that need some help, any businesses that might need some promotion, you know, it's a great thing. Thank you very much. I enjoyed the last 60 days, and I'll enjoy the wrap-up. We're going to be having our grand inaugural celebration. We were invited to Batavia, a new grill in Batavia, to have it on June 17th. They're going to be doing 3 menus. They insisted I do it with them, and I couldn't turn them down. It's a new restaurant. They like Downers Grove too. Part of the reason they said it's like, oh, we can do it. It's like, really? It's like, great. So I hope to start having the invitations out. We're going to be doing some media blog, online media blog. And please, if anybody has any suggestions, we all have to stick together. We have to be proud of the state of Illinois. And we have to build our communities back to where it was before the epidemic. God bless you all. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jim. Nice tie.
Hi, my name is Jeff Bolam. Actually, I live just a stone's throw from here over to 818 Rogers, and I'm currently the president of the Downers Grove Bicycle Club. And as May is National Bike Month, and one of the events of National Bike Month is what's called the Ride of Silence. I'd like to invite the council and anyone who's present in the room to join us next Wednesday night, the 19th, for the Ride of Silence. I'll talk about this just a little bit. So the Ride of Silence was started in Dallas, Texas, to celebrate the life of a rider who was well loved there, who had been killed while riding his bike. It was originally going to be a one-off event, and it's grown from there to be an annual event that in about 400 locations around the world, including 26 countries and, believe it or not, all 7 continents. Downers Grove we held our first Ride of Silence in 2009, and it's typically an 8 to 12 mile low pace, less than like 10 or 12 miles per hour, very flat ride so that anybody can come. The purpose of the ride is for awareness, to remind that people driving cars, that bicycles are allowed to share the road and they need to be aware. This particular Ride of Silence a couple of years ago took on special meaning for us in the club, where one of our former members who had moved away out to Oregon was killed while riding his bicycle. And then we're, of course, recently, just Saturday, Helmut John, an world famous architect, was killed up by St. Charles from riding his bike. So, it sounds a little bit morbid. It's a nice event. The point of it also is to ride completely silent. No talking amongst yourselves while you're on the ride. And generally afterwards, there's people gather and chat and do things. So, welcome to everybody. Thank you for listening, and hope to see you out there.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, first of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak before you today on this topic. My name is Brian Bentley. I own Brian's American Grill in Downers Grove over there on Ogden Avenue across from Wanamaker's. I've been there for the last 5.5 years. The reason I'm standing before you today, I understand you'll be starting your financial planning meeting soon, and part of that process obviously is revenue generation. Many of us would like to, and business owners would like to see you take an all-of-the-above approach, which would include video link terminals, or video gaming as is more commonly known. A little bit of my background. Prior to owning Brian's, I spent 35 years in the gaming industry. I spent several years as an executive director of gaming operations and in other capacities. Pretty much I have read and know many of the studies pro and con for gaming. What I can say is that the pro points for gaming far outweigh the cons. There is a great amount of opportunity for us to both from the business perspective and from the village perspective, to gain benefit from video gaming. There are a lot of negatives that are rooted in perceptions and fear, not reality. Empirically, video gaming does not increase crime. You can ask any of the local police chiefs or mayors that are in surrounding communities that offer gaming. As a matter of fact, most gamers, the demographic for video gaming is about 35 to 60 years old. They have homes, jobs, they're not transient people. They're not going to bring in a bad element into Downers Grove. It doesn't bring property values down. There is no empirical data anywhere that shows that this happens. As a matter of fact, video gaming would help enhance property values, because we as business owners reinvest in our storefronts, our curb appeal, we redo our parking lots. There are a lot of benefit, there are a lot of money that we make that's perceived that we take and just put it in the bank. That's not what happens. We reinvest into our businesses, and that helps the community by putting forth a better front. When you're going through Ogden Avenue or 63rd or 75th, we're going to have better curb appeal for customers. I spoke a little bit of the undesirable element. Well, the people that game, I mean, take a look around. Look to the left, look to the right, your aunt, your uncle, the parent that you're sitting with of the girl playing on the soccer team. They're the people that game. It's not going to be what most people believe. Gaming is not bad, and it doesn't bring in an undesirable element. So what are the benefits to business if you guys were to consider doing this? We've had a lot of challenges pre and post the COVID pandemic. I can tell you, prior to the pandemic, we had already begun hemorrhaging business. And when I say we, the restaurant business in Downers Grove. Not particularly some of the restaurants in the downtown area, they're doing fine. 63rd Street, 75th, Ogden Avenue. We began hemorrhaging business because local communities that surround us, like Westmont, Woodridge, Lamont, Oak Brook Terrace, Lombard, Darien, unincorporated DuPage, they're able to offer their customers a product we're not allowed to offer, video gaming. I can tell you specifically from experience, I've had customers walk in, walk out, and I'm not the only one, because they want to have gaming. That's just the bottom line. We can attract more employees, better quality employees. Again, I'm going to have to speak from personal experience, but I would ask you to talk to any of the business owners that are in Downers Grove. Getting and retaining employees is almost impossible. And I've lost employees because I cannot pay them what other communities' businesses pay. These guys they basically shop their skills, and they'll go over to one town over for an extra $1 an hour or $2 an hour, in some cases significantly more, because we can't afford to do that, because they have gaming and we don't have gaming. I don't see how that's fair, and I believe that we should rectify the situation. We reinvest in our businesses. We don't just take the money and stick it in the bank. We clean our businesses up. We paint them. We go outside. We do landscaping. We pay our employees more. Maybe we can even consider doing benefits if it's at all possible to be more competitive. In this environment, we have to have these resources, and it's just not fair that we don't have those resources. We can also offer more entertainment, more options to our customers. Make Downers Grove, or at least help enhance Downers Grove, not make it, but help enhance Downers Grove to be more of a destination place. Hey, I know I can go to Bryant's because they got live entertainment tonight. Or I can go to Q Bar or wherever else because they're offering this, that, or the other thing. It would help us tremendously if you guys would consider this. So what are the benefits to the village? Well, it helps to keep your businesses healthy. If we had discretionary income that we were able to maybe save and not go into this pandemic with our pants down, we might have been able to better weather this pandemic storm. Investment, like I said, 63rd, 75th, Ogden Avenue. I can say this unequivocally that if I were a business owner looking to locate my business in a community, I'm going to locate it in a community that's going to give me the best opportunity to succeed. And right now, if you were a restaurant owner and you say, do I want to be one block over in Westmont or Lombard or Lamont, and my net or gross revenues are going to increase exponentially, I think I'm going there, not here. So I think it would really help us attract some new businesses on these otherwise, these thoroughfares that generally don't get a good look. Tax revenue. A lot has been put out about the tax revenue as far as the numbers. It's not hard to find out. You can go right on the Illinois Gaming website. They'll tell you exactly what everybody makes. The bottom line here is there are communities in Illinois that have made over $1.9 million in a year. This is fiscal year, not fiscal, this is going to be February of 19 to February of 20. And it just goes down. I mean, I sorted it through how much, but to say that we're only going to make $100,000 is unreasonable. Our closest, let's say, community that would be comparable to us would be Westmont. And in this same time period, this 12-month period, they did $416,000. Now, maybe it doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but to me, $416,000 is a good chunk of change, especially when you think about how you're making the $416,000. When you collect real estate taxes, you're obligated to provide fire services, police, infrastructure, public works. That money goes here, boom, out.
Brian, you getting close?
Okay, gaming revenue. The bottom line here is when you get gaming revenue, it's not earmarked. It's the villages to do as they choose for the most part, which might be playgrounds, sidewalk, projects. So it has a little bit more value than the 416 because you're not putting a lot out to get it. So in closing, I'll just say this. If we don't approve gaming in Downers Grove, it's not going to stop one person from gaming. Not going to stop one resident from going across the border and gaming over there. What it is going to do is it's not going to keep tax revenue in Downers that otherwise would be here. And it's not going to keep business here that otherwise would have been here. And speaking of that, it's just not restaurant business because when we have these customers, they tend to stay in a tight geographic area. If they go to one place, that's kind of where they hang out. So then you got the cleaners, the gas station, the Jewel, wherever, all those other little ancillary businesses that surround the restaurant business. So I'm asking you folks, as you do go into the long-range financial term planning, take a look at it and go in with an open mind. I don't think it's what some of you may think it is, and it really would help us out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The others?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Glad to see everybody's healthy. Rest assured, I don't have an issue with my neighbor tonight. My topic is trash pickup, garbage. At my house, we have two choices. We can take the cans from the company, the regular garbage refuse, or a recycle bin can, and we would pay a monthly service fee. Or what we choose at my house is our own garbage cans, and we use the sticker tags. Those constantly go up, and it's just aggravating. I'm not saying that anybody else is better, but for us, if you have a lot of garbage, it's X fee. If you have no garbage, you're still paying X fee. As an example, in Wheaton, whatever they have, each one of their cans has a SKU tag on it, like on the side of your groceries. The garbage man picks up your can, hits it with a SKU gun, and goes on his way. You're charged for however much you put out that time. So if you only put out garbage 1 week out of 4, you pay one payment. You don't pay for the whole month. You're only paying for what you're paying for. And I'm not sure. It seems cool from just what I know so far. Maybe you could look into something like that. Just aggravating that I got to keep running to the Jewels to get garbage stickers, and they keep going up. Thank you.
You always have to run to the Jewel to get the garbage stickers at about 10:30 in the rain. Usually seems like it works out that way, too.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Thanks, Francis.
Thank you. This is my boy Shemp. You haven't seen him before. He's also my service dog. He sucks at it, but he's still mine.
Anyone else?
I hope he hasn't.
All right, mayor and council member reports. We'll start on my right. Commissioner Cullivaney.
Just another personal note. Today marks the 6-month anniversary of me going into Good Samaritan with COVID pneumonia, so I'd really encourage people to get the vaccines, to keep yourself safe and keep others safe. I got my second shot a week and a half ago. I encourage you to do that.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Stuskey-Huget.
I'm going to kind of stay along the same lines and just, especially now that I'm in the healthcare field, want to point out that starting May 6th is National Nurses Week and starting May 9th was National Hospital Week. So just a big shout out and thank you to everyone who has taken care of us before, during, and will after this pandemic. Even though they've faced enormous amounts of trauma, they're going to keep going on and taking care of us. So let's all just appreciate them, value them in the way that, you know, we get our COVID vaccines and continue to be safe.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace.
I have no report tonight, Mayor. Thank you. I know. Very shocking. I know.
I'm kind of disappointed. I'm not sure what to do now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Glover.
No report, Mayor.
2 for 2. Commissioner Gilmartin.
I have a report, Mayor. I too want to thank the nurses. Tomorrow ends National Nursing Week. It also happens to be, or would have been, Florence Nightingale's 200th birthday. So I do want to extend a special thanks to all the nurses in the community for their tireless and often thankless efforts to help us mend and help us when we're ill and literally save our lives. Past year has been tough, particularly trying on all of our first responders, and nurses continue to help and play an important role in the progress against the virus. Many of us don't think of nurses until we need one, and they are, as renowned nurse Donna Cardello said, the heart of healthcare. So thank you to our residents and all the nurses out there, much appreciated. I also want to mention that for residents who might be struggling to pay rent during the COVID-19 or due to a COVID-19 hardship, there is rental assistance programs available through the Illinois Housing Development Authority. There are grants for up to $25,000 to cover up to 15 months of rent owed. You can find out more information at ihda.org. Applications are beginning to take on May 17th. There's also a phone number, 866-454-3571. And lastly, I want to take this opportunity to recognize freshman Gianna Casper for being the first girl ever to earn a spot on the Downers Grove South baseball team. Gianna, you are truly an inspiration and a trailblazer for all who have a passion for sport and a desire to do great things. Good luck with the season and congratulations. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Mr. Jose.
I have no report, Mayor. Thank you.
No report either. So we're going to jump back over to the village manager, who's going to brief us on a 21 budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, before we go into the committee room and start talking about a long-range plan, I do have an update on the current year budget that Mr. Baker will pull up for me. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, this is an update on the implementation and management of the current year's budget, FY21, and this presentation focuses on our general fund, which is the village's primary operating fund. The report consists of 4 sections. I'll start by providing background information on the FY21 budget. Then I'll present staff's updated revenue estimates for the year and recommended actions based on these current revenue estimates. And finally, we'll present the current expense estimates. Here's the key message of this report. Staff expects that FY21 revenue will be about $3 million higher than we budgeted, allowing the village to proceed with filling vacant positions and avoid using money in the major building fund for operating expenses in our general fund, so we can avoid that transfer. So just as a reminder, the FY21 budget was prepared in late summer of 2020, and the economic uncertainty present at that time made it quite challenging to forecast revenue performance for this year, 2021. To address the issue, the FY21 budget was prepared under the assumption that revenues would perform in the same manner as revenues performed in the third quarter of last year. The budget document notes that the actual revenue performance may vary, and it has, and that the village would actively monitor revenue performance and make adjustments to the budget as more information becomes available. That is exactly what we're doing here tonight. The FY21 budget actually reflected what we thought would be a financial gap of about $4.8 million. And to address that expected shortfall, expenses were reduced by $2.3 million. Revenues were enhanced by $1 million. And $1.5 million in the Major Buildings Fund would be transferred into the general fund to help cover expenses, basically functioning as the use of reserves. One of the key expense reduction efforts was the delay in filling certain staff positions which were vacant at the time the budget was approved. Other cost-saving measures that are noted on the slide have been in place so far this year and frankly for most of last year as well. Okay, so staff has prepared updated revenue estimates based on the review of village revenue performance to date and updated projections from the Illinois Municipal League. General fund revenues are estimated to be nearly $3 million higher than shown in the FY21 budget. Even without the transfer of $1.5 million from the Major Buildings Fund, total general fund revenue is expected to be just over $50.6 million for the current year. That's about $1.5 million more than the total revenue shown in the budget, including that transfer. So what's driving this? Key drivers of the expected revenue performance are shown right here on this slide. State income tax is projected to be $1.2 million greater than budgeted. Sales tax and local use tax together are projected to be about $1.6 million greater than budget. And food and beverage tax revenue now looks like it'll be about $300,000 better than we budgeted. Simply put, the economic performance in the first 4 months of 2021 is better than we expected when the budget was prepared. Now, this improved revenue performance will allow the village to not make the planned transfer of $1.5 million from the Major Buildings Fund to the general fund. Further, staff feels comfortable filling the 4 vacant positions and taking the other actions shown here on the slide that are expressed in more detail in our budget document. Taking these budget-related actions will increase costs by just over $1.3 million, bringing the total to about $50.5 million for the year. The budget should remain balanced with revenues and expenses nearly equal as shown on the screen. So in summary, staff expects the FY21 revenue to be about $3 million higher than budgeted, allowing the village to proceed with filling vacant positions and avoid using money from the Major Buildings Fund to help cover operating expenses. It's still early. We will continue to monitor budget performance. We will continue to report it out, not only to the council but to the community. With that, we'll be happy to take any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Dave. Any council questions or comments? Chris, please.
Of the 1.2 in sales tax, is there a breakout of what came in through the e-commerce versus what we had normally been receiving through retail?
Yes, and we can provide that information in the coming reports. We do have 2 months worth of data on online sales tax revenue projection. It's going to be measured in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
And is a key driver of this. So we have some very, very early numbers, which we'll be happy to share with you, probably somewhere between 600,000 and 900,000 for the year.
Great, thank you.
Other council questions? Nicole, please.
I just want to say thank you to staff for your continued work on this. This has been a very difficult time to navigate, and everyone's done a fantastic job, so thank you.
Well, let's name those folks. Judy Botney, Carol Hogan, Robin Leahy, Carrie Meritus when she was here, Josh in our manager's office, Megan. There's so many people that work so hard on these revenue projections, primarily folks in our finance department. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I'll just add a little bit of additional editorial. Dave framed it up, but there's another component to this too. One is that your last council's planning efforts, what you're seeing here are some positive results of some decisions made. Some of those choices about waiting on hiring some people, everybody's intention was to hire those folks as soon as we got some data. And in particular, the sales tax number, Chris alluded to it before. For some context, that was supposed to start long before it did. The state didn't start when they did, and even at that point, we're struggling to present clear rules as to what that would be. So when Dave talks about our staff working really hard at trying to project what revenues might be, injected into that was not only the uncertainty of midstream pandemic, but also, frankly, a state that it struggles sometimes to get their financial details in order. So the good news is, though, that is now running and rolling, and frankly, we're going to be benefactors of that. And it's a very good thing for the Village of Downers Grove. Just want to add that out there so that people aren't looking back at this saying, well, how did we miss by that kind of money? It was some pretty conscious choices in a very fluid environment. So thank you again to everybody for the good work.
Thank you. We'll pass that on to the team. Unless there's any other questions, Mayor, that will bring us to the start of this year's 21 to 23 long-range plan, and we would recommend adjourning into the committee room for that discussion.
And so we need a motion for that?
Mayor, I move to recess to the committee room.
There we go. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will reconvene in just a few minutes in our committee room. Folks, if you guys want to stay, you're welcome to stay here, but you can't unfortunately stay in there because of the separation we need and room spaces relative to COVID rules and best practices. So we're going to be moving over there. If you want to stay, you can, but there's nothing much to stay for. Apologies.
So you can't stream it.
Yes, it will be streamed.
It'll be streamed in this room, and you can participate as well from here.
Thank you. Good point. Yep. Hopefully, we are going to get some work done. It was, for everybody, a challenging 14 months or so. I know nobody really had any fun with that, and everybody was pretty excited on like March 11th or so of last year, and then the hammer came down. So I'm excited about this. I expect probably everybody is, both in this room and outside of the room, and frankly, the village, to see us start to get some work done. It feels like progress. It feels like improvements. It feels like good work instead of holding on for dear life. Dave, why don't you start us down the road of conversation?
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. Welcome to our first meeting in preparation of the 2021 to 2023 long-range plan. First, I want to remind everybody what our long-range plan is and how it serves us. First and foremost, it is a combination of strategic planning and financial planning, something that the private sector does all the time, but a lot of local governments have separated those exercises and it creates some significant challenges. By putting these two together, we're making our strategic initiatives aligned with our financial resources. It really served us well. We've been doing it like this for the last decade or so. This long-range plan is an important guiding document. This council knows that the long-range plan is a key driver of the budget and determines a lot of the strategic initiatives that are reflected in the annual allocation of our limited resources. But beyond that, the long-range plan also drives council policy decisions throughout the year. You'll hear it referenced as we go. And it does drive daily operations, the decisions staff makes on a day-to-day basis. We often consult the long-range plan, trying to take our cues from the policy directions and themes and items that are found in the long-range plan. The plan itself has 4 key components. First, it has our strategic goals, which we will go over and discuss tonight. It also identifies key trends and issues that may affect the long-term future of our village. Then we develop strategies and solutions designed to mitigate or address any of the negative key trends and issues that we may identify. And finally, the 4th component is the work plan. Priority action items. These are the projects that this council has determined is our work plan for the next 18 to 24 months. these items reflect council direction and policy initiatives that will guide this council's work for the next year and a half, 2 years. So with all of those components, you can see that this is something that doesn't easily come together. It takes a lot of work from both the staff and particularly policy direction from this council. So to prepare this document, we are going to meet at least 7 times over the next several months into early September. We will take the long-range plan in sections to make sure everybody's following along and they're easy to digest. We are here in meeting number 1. We're currently doing the introduction, and we will talk about strategic goals tonight. Next week, we will talk about our general fund, our main operating fund, its sustainability in that fund, and some police operating and policy issues. In June, we will talk about sustainability in our stormwater fund, sustainability of our own village facilities, village hall, police station, and the property tax levy. And all 3 of those, you'll see when we get there, are very much related and interdependent. That is report number 3 and meeting number 3. Meeting number 4 will take a little bit of a deviation, but very much important to our efforts here. This year, we have some policy direction we need from the council on how to spend American Rescue Plan funding. Funding from the federal government directly to municipalities. It has to be used according to federal government guidelines. You'll notice that July is missing on this schedule. We're still doing work in July. On a related note, we expect that the council will be talking about governance issues, how the council operates with staff. We'll come back in August, and we will hear from our partner agencies, the Economic Development Corporation and Downtown Management Corporation. They will be presenting their strategic plans. That will help us understand their priorities, their objectives, and their goals before we craft this council's list of priority action items, this council's work plan. We'll do those 2 meetings in August. And then in September, we'll put the whole plan together, and the council will have a chance to look at it in its entirety, review it, and basically bless it, approve it, and send us on our way saying this is the long-range plan of the 21 to 23 Village Council. So, 7 meetings on these topics, starting in May, going through September. And of course, this is not set in stone. If there are any issues brought up during that time that we need to respond to, any issues or concerns brought up by council members, we will work that into the schedule. So what type of work is this? I think a lot of folks in the room are familiar with our flight analogy. It's an analogy that helps us understand roles and responsibilities of the elected village council and the staff members and how we work together, and really when we do certain types of work. So it's like an airplane flight analogy, right? Ranging from runway level day-to-day work up to the highest levels of 50,000 foot work. Really long-range planning fits right into the 40 and 30,000 foot areas, strategic goals, and priority action items. So think of just piloting the plane. There are plenty of time throughout the year on runway type actions. Budget actions come later. Those are a little later in the flight analogy. But we're really looking for strategic elements and that type of policy direction in these types of discussions.
Hey, Dave, let's interrupt for a second. I just want to remind everybody, particularly Chris and Dan, but everybody, that this is really critical work that we're doing. And if there is any that doesn't connect, the dot that doesn't connect, something that doesn't bring, I'm not sure what that was. Either here or when we leave. Because we'll leave, and tomorrow somebody will say, I thought I heard something else. Do not hesitate to ask those questions. It's a cliche, right? There's no dumb questions except for one not asked. But it is super critical that all 7 of us really understand what this means when we get to September and decide what kind of stuff. Because it does guide our day in, day out action. And the truth of the matter is, our day in, day out action is what we plan. And then it's everything else, just like your own life, that happens. And so it's critical that we're all on the same page, the staff's on the same page, those strategic goals are aligned, people understand what that means, because things will come up during the course of the year with first reaction. That's life. So please do not hesitate to ask any questions. I know some of my colleagues already know that, but I'm going to make sure that's super clear to everyone. digging in and understanding what's going on. You won't initially, that's fine. I will probably embarrass myself at some point, and I'll have to correct me. It's part of the process. But it really, I said to people lots of times over the years that this job is not necessarily hard, but it is complex. And so connecting those dots, finding those lines, pulling that spaghetti out of the hole is important work. So please don't hesitate.
And I just want to build on that for those participating in the other room or watching at home. If it looks like there's a lack of question or there's a lot to take in, that's true. But I want everybody to know that staff meets individually with each council member before each of these meetings to give them their own individual run-through. So each of the council members has heard this individually. It allows us as a team to take in information and then interact as a team better when we're here on meeting nights. So with that, what we're focusing on tonight is a discussion of our strategic goals. We have 5 of them. Many of these have remained relatively the same over the past several years and have been developed by previous councils. And they served us quite well. I think the proof is in our annual reports and the results that our staff and council team have been able to produce over the years. Our first goal is steward of financial, environmental, and neighborhood sustainability. This goal has evolved over the years. It started as financial sustainability. A couple of years after that, we added environmental sustainability to that, and then we added neighborhood sustainability a handful of years ago. Here's some key phrases of what we think achieving this strategic goal means. It's the alignment of revenues and expenses over the long term. We just had an update on that just a few minutes ago with our FY21 budget update. It's the concept of always controlling expenses and creating revenue sources and revenue streams that can withstand short-term volatility and uncertainty and provide stability over the long term. Those really speak to the financial sustainability, obviously. In regards to environmental sustainability, the concept that we deliver services that are protective and enhancing our natural resources. One of our former council members always talked about greening the operations of the village or being green mindful. This is a very purposeful, intentional consideration of environmental impacts as we go about providing services. And finally, as it relates to neighborhood sustainability, maintaining or achieving the desired character of our many great neighborhoods throughout the village of Downers Grove. And there's so much more about this concept in our comprehensive plan that Commissioner Colvani had a big role in putting together over the years. So that's our first goal, steward of financial, environmental, and neighborhood sustainability. Our second long-standing goal is exceptional municipal services. The idea that whatever services this council chooses to be in the business of providing to our stakeholders, that those services are of the highest quality, meeting and particularly exceeding expectations of those receiving the services. Another important concept, delivered at a value, not the lowest cost per se, but the highest value to those receiving and benefiting from those services. And the concept that the mix of services and how we provide them reflects the needs and desires of members of our community. Our next goal, top quality infrastructure. The village owns and operates several infrastructure systems. Each of them have their own set of performance standards and recommended levels of service. This goal tells us that these systems should always be operated and maintained at those recommended levels and established standards. And this will produce not only great service from the infrastructure systems, but allows us to maintain them at the overall lowest life cycle cost. Our next goal is that we should have a strong and diverse local economy. This is the idea that we have a very resilient tax base, that we maintain and enhance that tax base over time so that we can provide an environment where a variety of different business types can thrive in our community. And in achieving this goal, we depend so heavily on our valued partner at the Downers Grove Economic Development Commission. Their strategic plan that they're drafting now, that we will hear about in August, will speak very directly to this goal, this particular goal. And finally, one that I think is unique to the village of Downers Grove and has been a long-standing goal that I think we've achieved very well over the years. That's the idea that we should be continuously innovative, continual innovation. This is the idea that your staff and council team, together with our boards and commissions, are discovering, developing, and implementing leading ideas and practices. That we as a team are challenging the status quo to make sure that we can achieve these goals in a way that is unique, innovative, different, somehow really challenging the way it's always been done to make sure we can achieve these goals. In doing so, we remain issue-focused and results-oriented. And this one really, we're super proud of to be part of a team that innovates as a local government. It makes for a very fun place to work. All these goals and their descriptions are included in the report that's in front of the council right here. It's also available on our website on the agenda. The idea tonight is to hear from the council. Are these the strategic goals of this council in this long-range plan? Mayor?
Thank you. So, are these the strategic goals? Do they meet with our expectations about what we think we're doing? That really is an important first starting point question. Those goals that are up there are the goals that have been used. They have, as Dave indicated, evolved themselves from financial to adding environmental and neighborhood. They have changed over time, and they will continue to change over time. So, has anybody got anything that jumps out at them that they want to comment? This is intended. One of the things, guys, too, about this room and this setup. Apologies to those that may still be in the council chambers. Is this is an opportunity for us to dialogue with each other, which is tough to do for the days. So this is not a stop-start call on everybody thing. This is what's on your mind. Let's talk about it. One of the real values is your colleagues hearing something from someone and then hearing perhaps a comment off of that. This is intended to be discussion. Anybody want to jump in? Oh, we're done, Dave.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.
All right, let me start with a comment that's some folks have heard. When you look at exceptional municipal services, there's a comment up there that I think applies to everything, not just that, and that is value. Downers Grove has, some people have suggested that we are not doing well enough. Some people have suggested we're not cheap enough. What we are trying to do, and we have tried to do for a long time, is provide value. And that means that when we decide to do a service, we do it well, we try and be innovative about it. But you could choose to do almost anything. You really could. And if you look around the suburbs, consider sort of our competition of our neighbors, depending on your vantage point for the conversation, there are others that do different things. I remember years ago, to take a ridiculous, absurd example, for a while, Hinsdale decided to make all the streets concrete, just as an example. Communities around serve residents that are not dissimilar from ours, and they choose to do it in different ways. They provide some places different services, some cases different levels of services. What is super important to me, and has been super important to our councils in the last decade, is to do whatever that is, whatever this council decides, at a value. And I'd like us to continue to stay focused on that. For me, that's a very important aspect of everything. Right.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess, put it in a word, yes, these are my strategic goals. I think they, in large part, are what we've described as having become part of our DNA here at Village Downers Grove. We expect to innovate continually. And it's how we have been able to provide the financial sustainability that we've had, the environmental and neighborhood sustainability that we have, to continue to provide exceptional municipal services and top quality infrastructure. That's really what drives all of that ability. And we're going to have lots of conversations about what exactly top quality infrastructure means, what exactly the municipal services are that we want to provide on an exceptional level in future weeks. But I think these goals are absolutely reflective of what I'm looking for, and I hope what the rest of the council.
Rich.
Yeah, I agree both with Commissioner Jose's and Mayor Barnett's comments on this thing. I think this does a good job of articulating what we've discussed in the past. I don't see any need to make the changes to it. And also to speak to the value, it's important for residents to understand that we have set the bar at various service levels. It usually has to do with how much flooding there's going to be after a major storm event, and having their understanding that our bar is to handle, was it 95% of all major storm events. Same thing with snowfall. We have a certain chart that says we will clear all the streets, main streets by this amount of time, the side streets by this amount of time, and the cul-de-sacs, and that we're intentional on trying to meet those requirements. But if it's up to the community, it says, well, I think we should cut our service time in half for snow plowing. Well, there's going to be a cost involved in that. And it's probably a lot more than just double because of the exponential nature of that. Same with stormwater. We figure with stormwater, you can't handle 100% of the events because the incremental increase. So if any time the residents are faced with something like a major snowstorm, major rainstorm, you guys would give us the direction. Do you want us to increase the funding for that, or is it satisfactory? And the other thing I think we do a nice job at is kind of being right in the middle from a cost standpoint of other surrounding suburbs. We don't have to be the highest price. We don't have to be the cheapest. I think that allows us to retain quality staff, and I think it's that's shown up in the lack of turnover, unplanned turnover that we have. And I think the environment that our staff works under, our public service employees, public works, public safety or public works employees, I think shows that good positive attitude.
Thank you, Mayor. These are my goals as well. A couple things that jumped out at me was withstanding short-term uncertainty. That just happened. When the pandemic began, we really didn't know how long that was going to be, and the way we operate is in such a way that we were able to stand that, and in fact planned to a point where now we are in a better position than we thought we were going to be. So I think that's incredibly important. A lot of people, when we're going about our daily lives, sometimes we're not thinking about emergencies or things totally turning on their head, and that's exactly what happened here. So I appreciate that. Being green mindful, that's one of the goals that's kind of shifted and changed throughout time, and I appreciate that addition. I think we need to continue with some of those innovations and practices. Maintaining and achieving the desired character of existing neighborhoods, I think, is also incredibly important, especially to those residents who live in some of our neighborhoods that have quite a bit of character. Providing the highest quality and exceeding expectations. I think it's important that we continue to drive that home to our residents, delivering it at a value. I love our continued partnership with adjacent government agencies. When I read that, I thought of 58, 99, the township. Having those relationships is so incredibly important because it really maximizes, as it states in here, the public's dollars. So I'd like to continue with that. Our infrastructure, stormwater still continues to be so important, and I think we're doing a great job moving in a really good direction with those things. And then continuing to work with the Economic Development Corporation. They are such an important piece of our community and what we do here. I really appreciate the work that they do in retaining the businesses that are already in town and attracting new businesses to our community. And then just that continual innovation. So I really thank you to staff. I appreciate all these goals and what you guys have laid out for us. Thank you.
Yep. I would also agree, yes, that these are my goals as well. I know, obviously, I'm going to always be pushing forward on some of the environmental sustainability issues, and that's something that we discussed even in the last long-range plan, but I think that is really well covered in our goals. Honestly, as I was going through all of these and thinking about all the things that are coming within the next couple of years, anything that we've been hearing from the community, anything that we've been putting off. And I can't think of an instance where these goals would not cover those. You know, I can just pinpoint almost the bullet points of where each one of those would fall. So to me, that makes it really clear that these are the goals that I think we want to move forward with. And I think that biggest piece of that for me is similar to Mayor Barnett, that we want to really deliver this value. It means we may not be the lowest, or we may not be able to, you know, hold property taxes for X amount of years, but it means that regardless of what we're doing, we're going to make it a good value, and we're going to make it relevant to the community's needs and what they're asking for. I think that's something that we've done well, and that I would like to put a particular emphasis on as well. That's it.
Leslie and Greg both touched on something that I think is an important distinction, which is that I'm not trying to pick on anybody else, but what you don't see up here is like the worst, right? Or the worst streets. What's up here is how are we going to engage? Leslie said, I think like all these various things, put them up there. We'll get to those things, and then whatever municipal services we provide, we're going to provide like this. Whatever municipal infrastructure we're going to maintain it like this. And that's, I think, it's an important distinction for those particularly watching at home tonight, who are wondering, you know, when are we going to talk about stuff in June and August? The starting point is how are we going to go about doing these things? Not every community would make the same choices. Communities would like to do more stuff half as well, or focus or defocus on certain things. Not worry perhaps about their county, or maybe focus entirely on their county. This is a good cross section of priorities and a good way to orient them in such a way to drive the conversations.
Just check with Mike, see if there's anybody looking to make comments or have made comments online or in the other room.
No, there is not. In fact, Doug informed me that the room is empty.
Elvis has left the building.
We still gave it our all.
Exciting.
But I'm sure there's a lot of people at home still tuned in.
Maybe the drives and such, we should have Nicole talk about characters in the neighborhoods instead of character of them.
Did you have a particular neighborhood in mind?
Just start. Dave, you feel like you're getting good feedback and you're accomplishing what you hoped to tonight to take the next step in the process?
Yes, it's great direction tonight, but just a reminder to the community and the council, this is not final direction. We're at the front end of this, so it's not like we can't talk about goals later. This all works together, so if at any time during the future conversations anybody wants to talk about goals or any other topic, we're open to that, and it will likely happen throughout this. So we're off to a great start, Mayor. Thank you. Thanks to the council.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all and good night.